Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with Daily Technical Update. It is Thursday and it is the 19th of December. And remember, this is for educational purpose only. There's no recommendation or no advice whatsoever to buy or sell or invest or go long or short or whatever doing these videos. It is for educational purpose only. I'm just using live charts and live action going on in the market, so it's more fun to do that than the actual PowerPoint presentation. But let's get to it and let's start with Tesla. It got hammered 10% yesterday. Tesla got hardest hit of all the big ones, of all the Magnificent Seven, so 10%. It actually formed a top and reversal-like pattern here on the daily chart, and we could see further selling and profit taking over the coming days. However, the RSI, the strength indicator, is still in a positive sentiment and there's no divergence. This value here is higher than this one, indicating we could see higher levels after a correction. How big the correction will be is hard to say, but also here we can see on the weekly chart, positive sentiment, absolute no divergence. So Tesla could move higher going into the new year. But I think we'll see a little bit of a further setback, although I think we'll see a fairly positive market later today when US is opening. The S&P 5 index closed almost 3% down, just above the support here at 5,864 it was. We could argue it was a little bit lower than that. We can see these dips here below, but this is the gap area that should be observed. The RSI is below 40 threshold, so we're actually in a bearish sentiment or a negative sentiment, but we haven't closed this gap here, so there's still a chance that we could bounce from these levels. And I think pre-market tomorrow, I think we'll see some buyers coming in. Or this morning we will see some buyers coming into the market. But if it closed 5,883, 5,783, then we could see further selling pressure down to 5,674. However, if it can bounce and end the week, means Friday, above 5,970, well, then there's a good chance we will resume uptrend. There was some divergence here on the RSI but that has been cancelled now and reset, so it is we are in a bearish sentiment. Also, the US 500 CFD touched just the 5,829 support and is a pre-market bouncing a little bit. The Nasdaq 100 got hit the hardest with 3.6% lower, and it actually stopped at the support here, 21,171. There's a risk lower, but as you can see, there's no divergence on the RSI. There is, however, we are neutral on the RSI, but if it moves back above 60 threshold, then we could see uptrend to resume. And pre-market here, it is still early times. We are up a little bit. The Dow Jones index that has been really sliding lower for quite some time. Actually most of December, went straight through the support at 42,850 and closed just above 42,221, almost closing this gap. It hasn't done it yet. At pre-market, we are taking up a little bit. If it can get back above the cloud, well, then there is a good chance for it crawling higher towards the end. But if it closes below 42,220, well, then we could see further selling down to 41,563. The European market during normalization was fairly positive. EUROSTOXX 50 actually moved a little bit higher, closed well above 4,900. So let's have a look at what happened after market here with the EUR50 CFD / future. It actually got hit heavy down to the 55 moving average and around the 38.2 retracement of this leg up here. We're still above the cloud. We're still in positive sentiment. There's no divergence on the RSI, indicating we could see it bouncing higher back above 4,900. The DAX index also in the normal market was fairly unchanged. Closed just again below 20,277, but excuse me, but the in the aftermarket, we could see heavy selling to get down to the 38.2 retracement, just below 20,000 here. And here pre-market we can see it's ticking up a little bit, so we could see a bit of a bounce. There is just slightly divergence on the RSI, indicating we could see a further bouncing here. On the CAC index, also a little bit positive normal trading. So let's have a look at the after trading and what is indicating to open. Let's see here, we actually got hit hard, and we could see CAC 40 being hit even more because it got below 4,300 also. Maybe we'll take up a little bit, but we are in a bearish trend on the CAC 40. A lot of action in the FX market, especially euro dollar, went straight through the support at 104.60. Moved the lower to 103.40 and a change, and on the weekly chart we can see what's actually going on. Very heavy, and I think we'll see it pushing lower towards 102 and a quarter, 102, where we have some strong support here in the coming weeks and days. There's a little bit divergence here on the RSI, indicating downtrend exhaustion, but I still think it will continue lower, and it really needs to get back up above 104.60 just to get back in neutral position. I don't think that will play out anytime soon. Cable also went through the 126.12 support. I think we will see it testing the 125 fairly shortly. You can also see all the moving averages both on the short term, the daily chart, and weekly. They are declining, and we are below all of them, and we are below the cloud here. So quite heavy and negative sentiment on the RSI on both daily and weekly. Euro sterling also sell-off down to around 82 and a quarter, almost there at least. That's where we have some support. We are still in this falling wedge-like pattern here, but you can see the support here. I think we could dip down to 82 even. Dollar yen pushed higher during yesterday's session, as it seems to be continuing today. Currently trading around the 786 retracement of the sell-off here at 155. We're above the cloud. We're above the all moving averages. Most of them are actually rising now, and I think we will see 55 moving average breaking above the 200. That is also rising, creating a gold cross, and I think we could see it pushing higher. There's also positive sentiment on the other side. There's potential up to 156.75, 157.70, and here on the weekly chart we can also see what's actually going on. It seems like we are pushing back towards the previous peak there, and we are back above the cloud. We were just below it here. Key will be, will we get the RSI back above 60 threshold or not on the weekly chart? That's something you should keep an eye on. On the euro yen, and let's just zoom in here on the euro yen. We can see that it actually is bouncing this early session here, Asian session, trying to get back in a cloud, but RSI really needs to get back above 60 threshold to break this deadlock here between 160 and 162.65. That is the range to break out of. And what I want to do, also to show you what to do, I will actually draw some this range here. Say this is the breakout I want to see for any potential up or down watch move. Aussie yen got hit yesterday, and primarily also because Aussie dollar was moving quite a bit, and we have here Aussie yen resuming downtrend, negative sentiment. I think it will move lower here in the coming days and weeks towards 94 and 93.65. If it takes out the 95.5, then that really will come into play at that bearish scenario. The sterling yen, well, it didn't do much. It's still around the 61.8, which rates 195, 40, 42. Can't make its mind up. Key will be RSI. Can it close above 60 or will be rejected? If it closes above 60, well, then there's potential up to 197.40, possibly higher. If not, then we'll see it sliding back. Aussie dollar, well, massive sell-off in Aussie dollar took it straight through the 62.70 support, and we actually need to go really far back to see where there's some support. Well, we are back here in 2022. 61.70 was the low there, so around this level, 61.70 and 62 then that I think we could see it. But there's risk lower because negative sentiment on both weekly and daily RSI, and there's no divergence indicating we are likely to see lower levels on Aussie dollar. Dollar Canada also quite a busy day. Yesterday, massive move up to almost 144.50, and today spiking a little bit higher. There is no divergence on the RSI indicating likely higher levels, and we have to go back all the way back to, and we talked about this for quite a long time, in 2020. There is potential up to that peak, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it. There's no divergence on the bullish RSI here on the weekly either, maybe building up a little bit when we're looking at these peaks over here, but still there is potential higher for dollar Canada. Sterling Canada, well, Sterling Canada had a fairly slow day, so they could take a breather there, dancing a little bit sideways here. Maybe we should have a little bit of correction, but we are in a bullish trend. However, there's some divergence here on the RSI. You can see that the values has been they have been declining slightly. You can see that there, indicating trend exhaustion, but that doesn't mean we can't move higher, and we can see imbalance going forward for quite some time. And the weekly chart, if the RSI closes above 60, where it is actually now, well, then we could see higher levels on Sterling Canada also. The Swiss franc, well, support here at 93.15. If it takes out that, well, then we are back here around the 92.70 and 92.5 once again. And I would actually adjust this a little bit, say, okay, this is what it should take out at 92.55 for a push below 90, at least down to 92 and possibly also below. If Euro Switch can come back, we get back above the falling trend line here and take out these levels and close above the 94 and above the cloud area, then there is a further upside potential. The positive RSI is indicating that the bullish scenario is likely to play out. Dollar Swiss higher yesterday towards a 90 level and dancing around that level at the moment, where there's some resistance, as we can see, going back here to earlier this year. I think we could see it pushing higher. It has broken on the RSI, its falling trend line. I think we'll see it pushing higher towards 92.5. If it takes out that, well, then there's potential up to sorry, not 92.5, 90.5, and there's potential up to 91.50 area. And finally, on the dollar index, that of course also was moving quite a bit, massive move, bullish move there. We talked about it could get up to 108, and I actually got exactly spot on up to 108. And this morning we are setting back a little bit. There is divergence now on the RSI. We see these values here are lower than these values over here, so we actually do have a divergence, but I think we see it pushing higher. And if it takes out 108 and a 7, well, there is potential up to 109 on the short term. Gold was also on the move, got hammered yesterday below minor support at 26.05, below the 100 moving average. This morning is trying to get back above, but we are below the cloud, and the RSI is in a negative sentiment, being below 40 threshold. But it was also above here, and that didn't matter much, so maybe this is also a false break. The big key support is 25.46. If it's 44, 45 around that level, if it takes out that, well, then there's potential down below 2500, 24.70. But let's see if it can get back above 26.50. Well, then maybe it can get a little bit of breathe a new life into gold. The silver also got hit hard yesterday. Went straight through the 29.70 support, and let's just remove this one. We are just below the 200 moving average, 29.18. There's some support here, but we could push lower in the coming days and weeks, where you have the RSI in a negative sentiment in supporting a lower levels, possibly down to 28. It could be. The copper also a bit heavy. Just above support area here at 4.644, and I think we'll bounce from there once again. However, the 55 and the 100 moving averages, they are declining, indicating the sentiment is bearish. Crude oil is still can't really make its mind up, and here we are still below the cloud. We are below now the 55 and the 100. But it really needs to break below 66.70 or above 72.88 on the WTI. Brent crude, really the same picture here, 70s but 70, and it needs to get above 76.30 for potential upside establishment. The Dutch TTF gas has bounced, and well, yesterday, Wednesday, it got set back a little bit. I still think we'll see it bouncing up to at least the 38.2 retraced on the 42.87. Could bounce higher if it can close back above the 55 moving average. We are actually still above the cloud, but the RSI is in a negative sentiment, dragging it down a little bit. But key support here at 38. If it takes out that, well, then we could see a bigger collapse. Henry Hub, US nat gas, crawling higher again towards previous top share, the double top like pattern, but it hasn't been confirmed anyway. So 3.56. If it takes out that, well, then there's a potential much higher towards the $4 and higher for US nat gas. We're going to talk about one of the other commodities in the soft commodity space here, grains. It's in this case, it's soybeans that broke berries out of this symmetrical triangle-like pattern here. It's been looming for quite some time. We were below the 100 moving average and the 55 moving average, and I think we could see it pushing lower towards the lows here. Back from August, just around 936. However, there is room lower if it takes out that, and we are looking at here we could be back to 912. That comes back from way far back here in 2020. The US 10-year yields moved higher yesterday and seems to be continuing this early morning here. We had a massive move, closed above 450, and despite the fact that we opened a little bit below, we are again above 450 here, and there's positive sentiment on the RSI indicating likely higher levels. Here on the weekly, we can see why it's such a key level, the 450. We are now back broken above this upper falling trend line. We are back above the cloud, and the RSI is in a positive sentiment. I think it's still there. Yes, we are, and now it's about to crawl back above the 60 threshold once again. As we can see here, there is potential higher towards 460, 464, maybe even higher up to 473 in the coming weeks. And the 2-year yield, US Treasury yield, also a strong move yesterday, very close to its resistance level here at 435. It's not that strong, but there is some strength to it. A 200 moving average giving a little bit of a hard time. However, the daily RSI is back above 60 threshold, indicating likely higher highs, and I think we could see a push up to around 448, 450. On the EuroBund future dropped further in yesterday's session, and we can see how, just to recap on the weekly, why we got rejected up here at 136.29, just around. I know we did spike above a little bit, but a massive collapse after that in this area right here. So we are now below the minus support 134.25, just around 50% of this uptrend piece here, uptrend there, and we could see a try maybe to slide lower towards the 61.8, 133.28, and the cloud area and the 55 moving average. But if that materializes, I think we will bounce strongly. And finally, when we're talking about interest rates and yields, we have the UK Gilts, and is being the future is being sold off further, and we are getting closer and closer to the 91 or 90 level, which I think we could see being reached fairly shortly. Bitcoin got sold off also yesterday, and we actually talked about the potential for a top reversal-like pattern, and maybe that could come into play. And we got sold off just above 108,000, 108,300, 188. I think we could slide lower towards this slightly rising trend line. It's not the strongest one. The key support is at 90,682. Ethereum also hit by selling pressure and support here around 3,500. That is key. If it breaks below that, well, then we could see a push lower, and we actually have this double top like pattern in place. What we can do, we can actually say, okay, if that is playing out, then we could see a potential down to 32.68, maybe even lower. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day today. I think we'll bounce a little bit in the US market, but knowledge will come in, but it's not a recommendation to buy or sell. This is for educational piece only. All right, have a nice day. Talk to you again.